Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's Devin Thomas back with another episode of Unscripted. How are you all doing? I know it's been a few weeks. I've just been busy as fuck. Not enough time to make a podcast, apparently. But yeah, that being said, I'm back with a new episode. What have I been up to? These past few weeks, I had a deal on a movie I was going to have go into production. Right now it's more tentative, but it was like looking like this movie I wrote, Cork, was going to get made, which I was really excited about. I wasn't going to be directing it, but I wrote this script right before Peninsula Nights premiered, which we just passed our 1-year anniversary about 20 days ago. Today's June 28th, but June 8th, 2024 is when Peninsula Nights actually released in theaters. So that's a cool milestone to remember. And we had a bunch of screenings last year all over, and the screenings were just so successful and they were so fun. Honestly, like, I never thought, especially in modern day, because everything's so digitalized and everything's so stream forward, you don't really go to the theater unless you're seeing, like, I say this all the time on Unscripted, but you really go to the theater to go and see like a Star Wars or an Indiana Jones, a blockbuster, the Avatars and Batmans of the world. And I think making an independent film and then having it showcased not only in a movie theater setting, but also being able to do Q&As with a live audience, like, it was fucking awesome. Like, it literally blew my mind. And my year to date, I feel like, wow, like massive growth as just an individual, but also just, film career wise, like, it's something I've always wanted to do, and Unscripted kind of ties into the film career element. And yeah, it's just really rewarding. And I know that Stephen Ray Thomas and Christine Von Robbery, they're very proud of it as well. And we all, were talking about it the other day. We're like, wow, like, it's cool how far we've come since Peninsula Nights. But just a nod to that. Yeah, it was very satisfying to see that the movie, got sent out in the world, distribution through Amazon, and had the success that it did. And like I said, these last few weeks, we've been circling in on like not just this other idea, but other things. But anyways, that was more of an aside. Peninsula Nights, 1-year anniversary. It's been out. Really, really happy with it, and I'm just so glad it's had all the success it's had. And it's also given us all huge platforms to put ourselves out there in the roles that we see ourselves doing, whether it be acting, directing, writing, editing, etc. We pretty much just, I couldn't have asked for more for a first film. And also, like I said, the live element, going out and talking to people and actually like connecting with people and hearing people say the movie connected with them. You think about it when you're making it, but to have like somebody actually come up to you and be like, wow, this really captured the essence of Monterey County, or Monterey and Carmel rather specifically, and also tell you that, hey, like, I really connected with this element of the film. You never know what part of the movie is going to make people like, they see themselves in it. I play the Uber driver in Peninsula Nights, and I had a guy who at the screening during the Q&A was like, wow, like, are you really an Uber driver? And he's like, no, but that was the thing he connected with. He's like, wow, well, he's like, I've been in that situation where I'm driving somebody home, or like, somebody's personal encounter when you're the Uber driver and you're kind of the third person in the room when a couple or somebody's having an intimate, conversation is probably a little bit more, it hits home closer, obviously, for this guy. And that's amongst many other things. I even had a scene in the film that has to do with the psychic. And there was a girl that came up to me after screening and was like, like, I do go into psychic shops. I do psychic, like, tarot card reading herself. She's really into astrology. And it was like, wow, like, that wasn't, when I was writing it, wasn't what I imagined. And I'm sure the actors and everybody too, like, we weren't imagining that's what people are going to like. That was a scene I identified with. It's a powerful scene, no less. But anyways, I digress. Back to Cork, the other film I was talking about. So I wrote Cork that week, probably around June 8th, like a couple days before that. So about a year ago. And it was a long script, 110 pages. And I was like, you know what, maybe we'll make this next. That's like whenever I write a script, you're always like, I guess we'll make this next. It's kind of just where your mind goes. But I digress. Cork, I got into the hands of this director, Sean Paul Piccinino. He directed California Christmas, as well as the sequel and a few other big movies on Netflix. And as far as the script goes right now, I'd say it's in development. We have a lot of traction on it. It's just like he has other gigs and it's not lining up with our schedule now. And we're going to figure out something to do with that. But it's a really exciting thing because, when you write something and you plan to make it and then you're like, oh, I'm going to give it away to someone else. It is a little bit like, it's like your baby. You're like, oh, fuck. Like, do I let him do it? And it's like, what, with this guy, like, I trusted him so much. I'm like, yeah, like, fuck yeah. If this guy wants to make this movie, that would be amazing. And it's not just an opportunity for me, but everybody I work with, we can all work on a Hollywood set and actually have some real hand-in-hand experience with an old hand, to say the least. So that's something I've been working on. And then aside from that, because, I pretty much write every day, if not every other day. Lately, I've been a little bit more focused on production, so I've been doing a lot of camera testing with Stevie. We've been just shooting a ton of footage, really just trying to find a look for these next films we're going to do. I think right now we've been moving more towards horror, and I've been writing a lot of horror scripts. I have some bigger IP that I've been really working on, but in the meantime, when we're not focused just 100% on writing and just development, it's fun to get the camera out and play, and that's something we've been doing a lot, trying to just hone in an aesthetic. We just watched Squid Game 3, which, by the way, I won't spoil it, but wow, what a fucking show. They had a great look, though, on the show, and that was something even today we were out shooting with the camera, and we're like, you know what, let's try and get this Squid Game aesthetic just, and see if we can create our own look that is similar to that. And that's something that just, it just never gets old when you're working with film, and especially getting into the program and editing, which I hate to say it, I'm a director, I'm a writer, but I'm also an editor, and as well as Stevie. And being an editor is such an important part of filmmaking that even if you were just, let me take a step back. A lot of people say, I just want to direct. I can't imagine being a director that doesn't know how to use a camera. You know what I mean? Wouldn't it be a little weird if you just I want to direct, but I don't, not even practice directing, but you're I can't really do anything but just I know what I want. So if someone has a camera, I'll tell them what I want. It just seems holy shit. It's getting a middleman. And I'm not saying you can't have a team. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying for me, it'd be a lot easier for me to tell my cameraman, hey, I've looked down that lens as many times as you. You know what I want, but hey, if I can communicate what I want even more, and maybe ignorance is bliss, maybe having just a straight cinematographer that just does it all and you don't have to think might make it easier for you. But for me personally, as a writer-director, I like to also shoot the film, and I feel like I'm a little more heavy-handed when it comes to directing, and maybe it's just me. I like to hold the camera. It just makes sense. It's how my mind makes the movie, which is also goes back into my original statement, editing. I know when I'm shooting the shot, I'm okay, let me get this. And then I know I can edit in my mind, kind of be okay, because I know exactly what the last shot was, I literally watched the camera record it. I can make that next shot and be I know it's going to line up in the software, which it sounds a little crazy and a little neurotic, but it's something that even when you're practicing an aesthetic or anything, for me, it really helps. And I think if you're any writer, director type, if you want to do both, be a cinematographer as maybe not necessity, but I mean, for me personally, actually being a cinematographer wasn't just necessity, but it was also I didn't want to have to rely on someone else. So, and we're living in 2025, and I've talked about this a lot, the technological gap between making a movie 25 years ago in 2000 and now it's fucking enormous. You're not shooting on 35 millimeter film or 16 or any of that. You don't need a Panavision lens. You could probably go out with a smaller kit, a little bit more versatile and mobile, and make something really, really good. And that's what I want to encourage people to do, is that you don't need, $100 million to make a movie, let alone $1 million. You could probably go out and make something for relatively cheap, but it depends on how much skill set you have. For me personally, and not to toot my own horn, but I have quite the skill set. I went out, I learned all the fucking roles. I did all the shit. I tinkered around Hollywood for a few years doing bullshit gigs, but I heard Ryan Johnson say this once, and I probably said this on this podcast before. He said he had the opportunity to do all that shit. And yeah, you work on a friend's buddy's project, whatever, that's fine. But he said, I never got into a role and got so invested in it that it was outside of what he really wanted to do, which was writing and directing, let alone just directing. And he said, if you want to be a camera operator and all you do is camera operate, but you secretly want to be a director, well, you're not a director anymore. You're a fucking camera operator. That's all you're doing. If you make a career of it, is what he's saying. It's like the guy who gets a job at a 7-Eleven and says, this is just part-time, man, and it ends up becoming a 20-year fucking job. That's kind of what I'm saying. It's if you want to do any of this stuff, really, especially from a directing standpoint, focus on directing, focus on learning the camera because you're going to need to know how to communicate with your DP, and focus on editing. Writing, if you're not a writer, that's okay. There's plenty of great directors that aren't known to be writers. Martin Scorsese isn't known to write great scripts himself. He usually gets a great writer, teams up, and make something incredible. The work he did with, oh my God, I can't remember the guy who wrote fucking Taxi Driver, but Paul Schrader. The work they did together is it's phenomenal. Sometimes there's just, people line up with the right idea and the right script. So don't worry about being just a screenwriter if you're a director, or vice versa. I think if you're going into directing, though, like the most important things to learn are definitely camera and editing, because those are the things that are going to give you the ability to actually put directing to use, because you won't know what to do with that footage if you can't edit it. And if you don't know how to use a camera, it'll be hard to communicate your directing skills. Like, hey, like I want a tight close up, etc. And if you don't use the camera, it might be hard to direct, because it's a big part of directing is camera direction. And look, if you have a good DP, they'll take care of you. And a good DP will make sure you get through the shoot unscathed and make sure your movie comes out looking good and hopefully having the cinematic grammar that any good DP or director would already know, through experience, if not, through the school of hard knocks. But yeah, anyways, I guess my mind's been kind of a little bit more in production. I was literally just shooting footage like an hour before I hopped in here to do this podcast. But that's kind of my little update on what I've been up to. It's summertime. It's a little gloomy. I'm up here in Monterey County, and it's just been a little June gloom, like quite literally. Kind of been staying in, doing a little bit of this here and there. Started playing a little Pokemon Fire Red version on my Game Boy Advance, which, goddamn, I kind of just wanted to play it. I was like, I keep seeing all this Switch 2 hype, and I got caught up in it. I'm like, I need to get a Switch 2. And like, I've never had the Switch. I think the last fucking console I bought by Nintendo was the Wii. I have a DS. I don't know which one came out first, but pretty sure it's the Wii. And I remember that was a great time. A lot of hype around that console. And yeah, the Switch 2's out, and it's funny. Like, the Switch 2 had like one launch title game, which was, I think, Mario Kart World 8. Or no. Mario Kart World. Just Mario Kart World. And it's like you can drive around. It's a little bit more open world map. You drive to each of the courses, which is cool. It looks really fucking great, and the graphics look good for Nintendo. It is what it is. But I just started looking up other games. I'm like, holy shit. I think I missed out on almost a decade of Nintendo games. So I started seeing the new Pokemon. And I was like, holy shit, this Violet or whatever the hell it is looks good. And this game's a few years old now, but it's brand new to me. So I'm like, I need to get my hands on this son of a bitch. And anyways, I have my little fucking bag in my closet full of like all the old technology. And I dug out my, at first I dug out the DS, and I realized I don't have a charger. It had a great charge. I'm like, I can't believe this thing's still charged. And of course, I start playing Pokemon, and I forgot how fucking addictive Pokemon is. So anyways, I've been gaming that shit for a few hours. DS dies. I have to switch over to my old fucking SP, and yeah, anyways, I was nerding out, playing a little fucking Pokemon and reliving old times, I guess. But it was very, very fun, very satisfying. I'm still fucking gaming my way through it. Just a good game. It's crazy to see a game, too, that came out, I think, in like 1996 or 1997. And this is like a remake of the original Pokemon Fire Red cartridge. So even playing it and seeing how well the game holds up now, it's incredible. It is truly a masterpiece. I think Game Freak and the good people over at Nintendo created something that was not only timeless, but they're still making them today, and not just the idea of Pokemon, like the gameplay specifically on Fire Red it's insane. For this little overhead character that you just run his ass all over this island, it's impressive, and it holds up. Like, I've never been bored. The battles, yeah, sure, it's a little slow paced. You're tapping through fucking the text to, get to the next move, but there's something like familiar, and for my generation, at least, the millennial generation, that shit's ingrained in you with like fucking, I gotta tap this button. Like, you just know it. And I don't know. I think I haven't been personally feeling nostalgic lately, but I think there's a sense of nostalgia going around right now, just on a national scale. A lot of people like, old things and old ways and stuff like that. So I think Pokemon and that era kind of falls into it. Or maybe the millennial generation is just growing fucking super nostalgic right now because we're getting older. That simple as that. Everyone's turning 30, right? Anyways, been playing some Pokemon, been watching some movies. I'm trying to think of anything good I watched this week. I watched Squid Game 3. I know I referenced it and talked about it a bit earlier, and maybe we'll dig into that a little bit. I don't want to spoil it for anyone, so I want to be careful with what I say. But Squid Game 3 was really, really good. It ended in a way that I wasn't expecting, but left it open-ended, and I'll leave it at that. I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to ruin it for anyone, but there was a lot of disappointment followed by extreme excitement. I was like, oh, wow. I did not think, like, the way this guy, look at this writer-director, I can't remember his name off the top of my head. He's a Korean gentleman, and he obviously is a very, very brilliant man. He not only conceived the Squid Game idea, but I heard when he originally conceived of the idea, he was pitching it all over town. People were like, wait, this sounds retarded. And then Netflix launched its Korean division to try and, start making stuff in Korea. And he said, right when he brought it to Netflix, they're like, this is great, let's do it. And sure, it was a little bit more budget the first season, which you can't really tell. The show's fucking extremely well made. But the guy kind of said, he's like, I had this idea for almost a decade and he finally got to make it, and well deserved. The show, not only continuity in terms of story and look and aesthetic, I'd say in terms of story, the continuity is insane. He did such a good job at carrying this narrative through 3 seasons, I guess you'd call them. They each have a little bit different amount of episodes, but it doesn't even matter. The show, it just makes sense. There's a congruency here that just works, and it is the way he just ties everything up, no loose ends, everything's perfect. And like I said, he, despite tying up all loose ends, he leaves it extremely open-ended, which was like, I don't know, it was masterful. This guy, I really hope he makes something in the Hollywood, like American Hollywood market. He definitely deserves it. I'm sure Korea loves having this guy, make movies in the Korean language. And I'm not even bothered by the language barrier because the dubs are good. And I honestly, the Squid Game dubs are some of the funniest, but best dubs I've ever heard. But I think this guy's really talented, and whatever he does next I think it'll be even bigger than Squid Game. And I know Squid Game is a cultural phenomenon, but I think the best is yet to come for this guy. He's a genius. And I really hope, like, this is a fucking far cry, but I was literally watching the show. I'm like, maybe this guy should get a shot at like doing like Star Wars or something big. He's got a vision, and he's a visionary. I think that's what I'm trying to get at, is this man simply understands how to not just envision something in his mind, but will it into existence. Like Squid Game, if I get why maybe for a decade he was trying to, push this idea around Korean studios, and they might have been like, this is just the scale's too big, or nobody will like that. It seems ridiculous. Even I always think of the scene in Squid Game when Gi-hun first gets arrested, or he's taken to the police station. He tries to explain to him what happened to him. It's after he gets back from the first game, and he tries to tell him about the red light, green light, and they just straight up are like, this is fucking, like, are you on drugs? Are you okay mentally? It sounds ridiculous. And I wonder if that writer-director, when he went in to go and pitch this idea, had a similar feeling, because, I think when you have a vision and it's hard for you to articulate it or not get people to understand it, it can drive you a little crazy. And I think everybody who isn't fucking this line of work is a little crazy. You got to be crazy to even get into it because it's such a far fucking shot. But to say the least, the Squid Game's writer-director, he kept a very, once again, I'd say heavy-handed. His directing is excellent. His writing is excellent. It keeps you guessing. It keeps you wondering. It keeps you sad. It keeps you happy, laughing. All the emotions. He's a multi-genre director. I'd actually say this on the record, for most Korean films, especially Boon Jong-ho, and I will get this guy's name before the end of the podcast, but the Squid Game's director, they are able to do multi-genre films where they blend the genres. It'll go from, happy to sad, thrilling to suspenseful horror. It's something that, American films tend to be very like one thing. They don't like to blend genres because I think they don't like to confuse the audience, and like, maybe that's why America has such mass appeal. Our films are huge. We own the market. But that being said, I think that despite having this huge reach, there is something unique, and maybe it's uniquely Korean or from Korean films, but they're able to blend these genre elements together. Squid Game had some scenes where there was like showing people from the dead. I think it's in season 2. Gi-hun's at his pink motel, and he sees the ghosts of these 2 other competitors from the previous season, and it was a horrifying moment. And the only American thing, and they do this in Parasite as well, they kind of have some horrific stuff, like, the kid coming up the staircase or whatever, the monster that the kid's imagining. But I'd say in Righteous Gemstones, they do this one scene in the finale where they see the mom at the end of the hallway, and it almost looks like she's like really pale, almost ghost-like, maybe demonic, although I don't think she's supposed to be demonic. But it just like, I literally like paused the show. I was watching it at night. I was like, fuck, this is Righteous Gemstones. It's giving me a chill down my spine. And yeah, you never know how, and that's just like in the note on genre blending, rather, is you never know how somebody's going to actually weave all those elements together. Some shows go from just like, a show even like The Righteous Gemstones, it's supposed to be a straight comedy, but then they incorporate some elements of horror or thriller or suspense, and they do it in a way that's so tasteful that when it feels seamless, that's what I mean by the genre blending. It's like, that fits in here despite being out of tone perhaps to the rest of the show. And that's something I think is just fucking awesome, in a sign maybe of good filmmaking or just a good filmmaker. But regardless, I think that it is something that I see in a lot of Korean films. They do tend to play on these elements of genre blending, as well as having just really good drama in general. I know there's the genre of K-drama or whatever. I'm not super into K-dramas, but I can just say, like, based off most of the Asian television I've watched, not just Korean specifically, drama is a major factor. very, very drama-driven shows. A lot of Squid Game season 3 even was drama-driven. They talked quite a bit amongst the characters. Some of the games lasted like a whole episode, maybe an hour, if not even a little longer. And I think that's because there's something about the emotional connection between the characters that maybe is even more crazy than the games. Yeah, fuck. You know, it was just really good. And it's not every now and then you get to watch like one of these premium shows debut, and we blew through it. We watched all 6 episodes at once. We watched it as a group. But yeah, from what I understand in the way this show ends, which I won't ruin it, unless, hey, listen, I'm going to ruin it. Cover your ears if you do not want to hear the ending of Squid Game 3. Or part 3, season 3, the ending of Squid Game. Okay, you've paused. You're good. At the end, Gi-hun dies, right? In-ho, the front man, goes to Los Angeles to give Gi-hun's daughter, that, you know, his estranged daughter, basically a credit card that has all of his winnings on it, right? And we're talking, you know, USD millions, Korean funds, it's billions of won, whatever it is. And he gives her like his jacket from the competition too. It's like 4, 5, 6. It's really cool. But it ends with him basically, he leaves and doesn't really explain to the girl. He just says, hey, like, your father died. Here's a gift. And she's left speechless. He hits the road in his Escalade and drives downtown LA, and he sees Cate Blanchett playing Dakshi with some strange, you know, it's 2 Americans playing the game now. This Korean street game has now become an American street game. And she looks at him, In-ho, and it's as if like, oh shit, like, you think the Squid Game is over in Korea, but it's just begun in the United States. And maybe In-ho, the front man, is running it even in the United States. It's left open-ended. When he looks at the person who's out, you know, the guy in the suit in seasons 1 and 2, he dies in the beginning of season 2. Sorry, fuck, I'm spoiling this all over. But the guy in the suit who recruits people for the Squid Game is now Cate Blanchett in like a lady suit, and she's playing this game in an alleyway with like, you know, a normal American guy. And it's like, wow, it's really cool that they're leaving it open-ended for this plans for, and this is what I've been reading online, I guess David Fincher is supposed to be in development with Netflix to direct the American version of Squid Game, which I think would be a really good fit. One, you can't say a bad thing about the guy, he's excellent. And 2, I think that'd be an appropriate way, because people are going to want more Squid Game. There's no way Netflix is going to be like, all right, we're done, 3 seasons. No, they want to get their money out of it. Obviously, I would want to if I was owning this IP, but not only just for the money, demand. Supply and demand. People want more. 3 seasons is, quite frankly, not enough supply for people to be satisfied with a Squid Game narrative. And I think that bringing in a, you know, new season or new version of the show, because, you know, the Gi-hun story is over. His character arc, which I'll get into that. You know, here's my take on that. Gi-hun starts as this degenerate gambler, and his character arc goes from degenerate gambler to winner of the Squid Game. He has all the money. At season 2, it kind of does like him, he's about to go to America to see his daughter, and then it just ends. And he gets a phone call, and he's like, hey, come back and play the game, or whatever. He can play the game again. He ends up going back. He can't find the guy. He cuts like a couple, like maybe a year later. His life has totally changed. He doesn't give a fuck about money anymore. All he cares about is justice. Even at the end of the first Squid Game, Gi-hun didn't care. And I think like his character goes from, oh, I'm this degenerate gambler taking money out of my mom's bank account, to I am this guy that everyone looks to as like a moral compass, because Gi-hun could do no wrong by the end of his journey. He was the person who he was like a morality, not morality police, but like people looked at him as somebody who was moral. He was good. He had been changed by the game. He went from, you know, in season 1, he loses his mom. He's a degenerate gambler. They're going to take his organs if he doesn't do the Squid Game. That was like something that's subtle, but like it's mentioned that, hey, like if you don't fucking get our money back, we're going to take an organ. He wins the games. He gets all the money. Season 2, he's chasing him down. He's getting ready to kick ass. They ended on a cliffhanger. Season 3, basically it sums it up. By the time he gets to the end of the game, he knows that like this game isn't about money for him anymore. It's just about, you know, for him, I think it's justice, ending the game, because he realizes that life isn't about money and all that shit. And it's just, it was a really powerful ending. His death was terribly disappointing. I really wanted him to live because I liked his character so much, and I felt like there was more for him to say. But on the same note, his story was over. He had conquered that world. He had ended the Squid Game, compromised their game, right? They had to shut it down. They self-destruct or something at the end of the season. And he does fall to his death on this pillar. It's very sad. And it's very, I don't know if you've been on the journey with this motherfucker for the last few years. I mean, it was powerful. And his death, though, kind of, it was the end of an era. I think that's what Christine said when we were watching it. She's like, end of an era, like, but because I didn't know what came next, I was so disappointed in that moment. I'm like, God damn, like, why kill him? Like, what if we wanted more Squid Game? Like, we can't have Gi-hun come back and he couldn't be another wise person to say, like, or guide rather these Americans. Maybe he comes to America. There's so many ways it could have gone, but he's gone. Gi-hun's gone, and there's no more Gi-hun to come and save the day. And I think when it cuts to In-ho delivering the money to the daughter and then showing him just going down the street, and he like just rolls down his window and looks, and he sees them playing Dokshi in a fucking alleyway. It was just like, wow, it's coming to America. It's going to happen here. Is In-ho going to be the front man? Does his character live on? He's the person I suspected the least that would survive all these fucking events, all these trials and tribulations. And yet he is the one who, and you look, the guy's a bad motherfucker. He has nothing, not a good bone in his body. I had no empathy. Even when he goes to like give the daughter, Gi-hun's daughter, the card with all the money, I'm like, dude, bitch, you can't trust this guy. Like, you can't let this man in your house. He is a stone cold fucking killer. But, I'm excited to see what's behind the scenes, because this season did also show a little bit more of the VIPs and a little bit more of their character, which I always was very intrigued by. For me personally, I was like, oh, like I love when there's like the main thing and then they show like how it's working. Like, how is this really, this idea is so fucking crazy. How do they really operate this thing? Because that for me adds plausibility, and when there's plausibility, it just makes it that much better for me. That's something, even when I'm writing, I'm always like, how can I make this feel as if like there's, it's not just making sure there's no holes in your fucking plot or anything. It's making sure that this feels completely real. Like, somebody, if they're watching this movie, I want them to be so invested in the suspension of disbelief that they believe what they're watching is completely plausible, or at least they'll forget that it's not while they're watching it because of things that have been set up to make them believe otherwise. And that's not just good writing, it's good directing, it's everything. But yeah, and I think with Squid Game in particular, that was something they did very, very well. Anyway, Squid Game, fantastic, 10 out of 10. What else did I watch this week? I really can't think. I saw Mission Impossible in theaters, which was actually fucking great. Mission Impossible Final Reckoning. It was incredible. I don't think Tom Cruise, I think he gets a bad rap. He's had an interesting career. He's done a lot of fucking movies just in general, right? Tom Cruise, no one's going to argue that. The guy's been in a ton of shit. But man, he's done so many movies that were so important to like film. Like, Eyes Wide Shut, that's a movie that like, it might be one of Stanley Kubrick's best works. I don't care what anyone says. Eyes Wide Shut is probably one of the best fucking movies ever made. And there's something haunting about it, and something that's just so appealing. It's like watching a car accident. When you drive by, you can't take your fucking eyes off this thing once it starts. There's this charming Christmas aesthetic tied into this terrible like romance between him and his wife, where they're, sleeping with other people. And it's a fucking really, really crazy idea. And like, from that to fucking Maverick to fucking Top Gun, like the OG, like Rain Man, the guy has done so many hits. And like, Mission Impossible is one of those movies that has always remained consistent in his career. I don't know why. Maybe it's because it just had the sequel potential, but obviously he holds it near and dear. Those Mission Impossible movies, like all the other work he did is fucking amazing. But even this just one franchise, if it was the only fucking thing Tom Cruise ever did, I mean, I tip my hat all day. The he'd be an action star. Maybe he was known just for Mission. But this new Mission Impossible did a great job. It recaps like all the other Mission Impossibles in the beginning, and it shows it in a way that like, you don't get the feels, but you definitely are like, wow. Like, it's crazy to see that Tom Cruise is like, he's like 60 or 62 now. I don't know how old he was in 1995. Quick math, 30 years fucking younger. But dude, it's just crazy to see this, young man age into this adult actor. And it's just like, it's all in the blink of an eye when they show it on Mission Impossible and they cut to all the other people. And it made the movie that much better. Also, one thing Tom Cruise does, I don't know if you've seen a Tom Cruise movie in fucking theaters, but when you go to see a Tom Cruise movie, he does like a little video opener. And like, I don't know why all movies don't do this, where he's just like, hey guys, thanks for coming. It's like him personally thanking you. And I get it. You could say, oh, he just does that for lip service. Well, fuck you. I don't think so. I think, yeah, maybe to some degree, he's like, I want people to like me. Sure. But I think I went in liking the motherfucker. I like his movies, and just to have that little like, hey, thanks for coming. Thanks for coming out to support the film and see me do my thing and be with us on the final mission, etc. It's just like a little bit of sentiment that goes a long way, because it kind of sets you up to already feel a little emotional about it. Like, well, fuck. He did the same thing before Top Gun Maverick, and it was like maybe the second movie I saw after COVID was Maverick. I saw The Batman, which was fucking 10 out of 10. And then I went and saw Maverick shortly after, and dude, it was like almost like low-key emotional. I was like, yeah, like, you know, his little video, it gets you stirred up to the point where you're like, yeah, like, you are fucking a big part of a lot of people's lives just because you've been in so much shit, let alone, like, somebody's favorite movie is Mission Impossible. Personally, it's not my favorite movie, but I do fucking love the movies. It's not like it's just not like my number one pick. But besides the point, I'm just saying, like, those movies have gotten somebody through a hard time, or they've been the movies that somebody, like, comes back to lean on. They're like, hey, this is a movie I put in when I just want to think about nothing else. I want to clear my mind. And, like, that's the power of movies, too, is movies, like, they can really transport you, not only the escapism element, but, like, there's some movies that just make you feel a certain way. And I think Tom Cruise knows that, and I think he does a good job at getting the audience to not only emotionally connect with his character and the other characters, but, like, you know, he's saying kind of like, hey, thank you for coming out and seeing this. You don't have to go and see the fucking 8th or 9th Mission Impossible movie, whatever it is now. And he knows that. And, you know, I just wish it was something that's thrown around a little bit more. It's really cool. It just shows people that you care and that you give a fuck about them, and that this isn't just about, like, hey, like, look at me, I'm so-and-so. It's like, hey, like, thanks for coming out. Like, these movies, like, they're a lot bigger than just the people making them. And the best movies always are. They reach the hearts and minds of millions, and they hopefully stick around and influence even more than that over time. You know, movies are just so powerful. And that's something that, like, you know, even just, you know, I guess I have a lot to say because I haven't done a pod in a minute, but just, yeah, like, you know, movies, everyone has those movies in their life, and those are the movies that you, whatever it is that, you know, you keep coming back to because they make you, like I said, feel a certain way or bring you back to a certain time in life or whatever, you know. They just put your mind at ease and let you escape for, whatever, an hour and a half, 2 hours, 3 hours, hopefully long because I love a long movie. But yeah, that's just something I felt watching the newest Mission. They really nailed it. And not to get too philosophical, but anyways, Mission Impossible, The Final Reckoning is just a fucking nonstop for a 2 or 3 hour movie. Like, I went and saw it with my mom. I was fucking blown away. We both left and said, like, hey, like, that felt like not fucking 3 hours. That felt fast. And it was one fucking incredible scene after the next. There wasn't, you know, just like dialogue, like, you know, whatever back and forth, but like nothing ever felt stale. It never felt too long. To be honest, I saw the first part of the whatever something Reckoning, the first part of this, and this is part 2, whatever, Final Reckoning part 2. 2 was much better. And I'm not saying 1 wasn't good. 1 was great. But 2, I felt like, fuck, they really went for it. And I don't think it'll be the last we see of Ethan Hunt, let alone Tom Cruise. Anyways, guys, Mission Impossible, The Final Reckoning, really good. Highly recommend it. I had a great time seeing it in theaters. I don't know if it's still in theaters, but if you can catch it in theaters, go for it. Yeah, I think this weekend before 4th of July, I'm going to go and try and catch F1, the new Brad Pitt, Joseph Kosinski film, which also Joseph Kosinski was working with, or not working with, he was working with Tom Cruise, but he also directed the latest Maverick, and before that, I think Oblivion. So he's done some really great work. Really, really, really like Top Gun Maverick and his work on that. So my expectations for this next F1 film that he's got coming out this week, or I think it might already be out, is just high expectations. Anyways, guys, I think that's all I got to say. I'll be back on the mic popping these out every week, if not maybe a few a week. I'm feeling fucking inspired. I'm feeling good. But once again, I'm Devin Thomas, and this is Unscripted. Talk to you guys next time.